Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Canada to participate in the Group of 7 Leaders Summit in Canada's Kananaskis to also hold bilateral meetings with world leaders. Israel and Iran trade deadly strikes for the 4th day as the conflict continues to intensify. US President Trump to leave G7 summit early after issuing a warning for Tehran to evacuate immediately. Group of 7 Leaders Summit being held in Canada's Kananaskis with focus on various global challenges including economic stability, climate change and technological advancements. Indian Met Department forecasts heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in many states across India. Gujarat under red alert, Kutch region braces for extremely heavy rains today. US President Donald Trump on Monday urged everyone to immediately evacuate Tehran and reiterated that Iran should have signed a nuclear deal with the United States. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, and I quote him, "Iran should have signed the deal I told him to sign. What a shame and waste of human life." Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that killing Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would end the conflict between the two countries. He also defended Israel's ongoing military actions against Iran, adding that they are aimed at ending the conflict rather than escalating it.
Escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict. We've had half a century of conflict spread by this regime that terrorizes everyone in the Middle East, has bombed the Aramco oil fields in Saudi Arabia, is spreading terrorism and subversion and sabotage everywhere. That's the forever war is what Iran wants. And they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. In fact, what Israel is doing is preventing this, bringing an end to this aggression. And we can only do so by standing up to the forces of evil. Look, democracies have had to learn this lesson.
Both Iran and Israel have defended their recent strikes on each other at a UN Security Council meeting. Iran's UN ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani called Iran's actions proportionate defensive operations following an Israeli strike on an Iranian news agency office, which he labeled a war crime and an attack on press freedom. He said Iran acted in self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter.
The Israeli regime has once again demonstrated that it is the foremost enemy of truth. It holds the disgraceful record of being the world's leading perpetrator of violence against journalists and media professionals. In response to this barbaric attack and aggression, Iran exercised its inherent right to self-defense in line with Article 51 of Charter. Our response was defensive, targeted, and proportionate.
Meanwhile, Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon said that Iran targets civilians while Israel aims at the regime's terror machine. He added that Israel would continue targeting military sites in Iran while trying to minimize civilian casualties.
Aims its missiles at children while we target the regime's terror machine. We will do everything we can to minimize civilian casualties, but as you said, it's a war, and we have seen what happened in our cities, so we will continue to target the military sites in Iran.
Iran's state broadcaster in Tehran was hit by an Israeli strike on Monday. A senior correspondent of broadcaster of Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting was seen reporting outside the building, which was engulfed in flames and smoke. Speaking to the camera, Yunus Shadlaw said that Israel would not achieve anything by this attack and that they will see the worst. Visuals showed the building on fire even as a live broadcast was cut off after a loud explosion. The Israeli strikes came after it warned hundreds of thousands of people in the middle of Tehran to evacuate. The warning came on the fourth day of the conflict between the regional foes. French President Emmanuel Macron on Monday called for strikes against civilians in Iran and Israel to end. On the sidelines of the G7 summit, Macron urged Israel and Iran to stop attacks on civilians and cautioned that pursuing regime change in Iran would be a strategic mistake. Further, Macron said that US President Trump has made an offer for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, and nuclear talks with Iran could resume once a ceasefire is achieved.
La première, le président s'est exprimé il y a quelques minutes pour dire qu'il y avait des discussions qui étaient en cours, ce qui est une bonne chose. Et donc, si les États-Unis d'Amérique peuvent obtenir un cessez-le-feu, c'est une très bonne chose. Et la France le soutiendra et nous le souhaitons. Ensuite, je dis, il est absolument essentiel que toutes les frappes de part et d'autre qui se font contre des infrastructures énergétiques, administratives, culturelles et encore plus contre la population civile cessent. Rien ne les justifie, rien. Et elles sont, elles, absolument intolérables. Et ensuite, dès que le cessez-le-feu sera obtenu, et je pense que les annonces qui ont été faites par le président Trump sont tout à fait positives et le rôle que les États-Unis d'Amérique auront à jouer est clé, les Français, à leur côté, les Britanniques et les Allemands sont disponibles pour reprendre des discussions sérieuses. Discussions que nous n'avons jamais cessées.
The group of 7 leaders from Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the US, along with the European Union, gathered in the resort area of Kananaskis in the Canadian Rockies for the G7 summit. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney welcomed world leaders as they began talks with escalating conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East hogging the agenda. In the opening remarks, Canadian Prime Minister Carney underlined the importance of cooperation to enhance resilience and economic progress. The group
isn't a strategy. We have to change with the times and to build a better world. And some of you, such as you, Mr. President, have anticipated these massive changes and are taking bold measures to address them. All of us around this table are reinforcing our militaries and security services for the new world. But we all know that there can be no security without economic prosperity and no prosperity without resilience. And in a world where shocks flow across the borders, that resilience comes from cooperation that starts around this table.
The Group of 7 summit began in Canada on Monday. The world leaders were scrambled to contain the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran over Tehran's nuclear program. US President Donald Trump said that Iran should talk about de-escalating before it is too late.
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war, and they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
While attending the G7 summit in Canada, President Trump slammed Barack Obama and Justin Trudeau administration for removing Russia from the G8 member nations, called it a big mistake.
To be the G8, Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, what's that, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table. So it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war.
U.S. President Donald Trump also expressed optimism about settling trade dispute with Canada during meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Accomplish a lot, and I expect to. And I think our primary focus will be trade and trade with Canada. It's not so much holding up. I think we have different concepts. I have a tariff concept, and Mark has a different concept, which is something that some people like. But we're going to see if we can get to the bottom of it today. I'm a tariff person. I've always been a tariff. It's simple, it's easy, it's precise, and it just goes very quickly. And I think Mark has a more complex idea, but also very good. So we're going to look at both, and we're going to see what we're going to come out with something, hopefully.
U.S. President Donald Trump is leaving Group of Seven summit early as he hinted of greater involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict and warned Tehran residents to evacuate. At a group photo with fellow G7 leaders in the scenic mountain resort of Kananaskis, he underlined that he has to be back as soon as possible. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Trump would attend the leaders' dinner before returning to the White House. The U.S. president will miss a day of meetings that was expected to include discussions with the leaders of Ukraine and Mexico. He has repeatedly declined to say if the United States would participate in Israeli military action. The president, who has praised Israel's strike despite its stated preference for diplomacy, said that Iran would be foolish not to agree to a negotiated settlement. U.S. forces in the Middle East remain in a defensive posture, a White House spokesperson added. Also, Iran, since Trump pulled out of an earlier nuclear deal in 2018, has ramped up uranium enrichment, but not yet at levels to create an atomic bomb. Israel is widely known to have nuclear weapons, but does not acknowledge it publicly. U.S. President Donald Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced the finalization of a trade deal between the two countries at the G7 summit in Canada. Trump called the U.S.-UK relationship just fantastic and confirmed the agreement was signed. Starmer said that the deal covers auto tariffs and aerospace, though specific details were not disclosed.
We just signed it, and it's done. And so we have our trade agreement with the European Union. And it's a fair deal for both. Going to produce a lot of jobs, a lot of income, and we have many other ones coming. But you see the level of enthusiasm is very good.
After successfully concluding his two-day visit to Cyprus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Calgary, Canada, a short while ago, marking the second leg of his three-nation visit. Prime Minister Modi is visiting Canada at the invitation of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to attend the G7 summit in Kananaskis. This is Prime Minister Modi's first visit to Canada in a decade. He is on a four-day, three-nation visit of Cyprus, Canada and Croatia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Calgary in Canada, and today, later in the day, he will be participating in the outreach summit of outreach sessions of the G7 summit. This is India's 12th participation, and to be precise, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 6th participation at the outreach session of the G7 summit. This year, this summit is being held in Kananaskis in Canada, and here we see a short while ago, Prime Minister had arrived in Calgary, Alberta, and from there he will head towards Kananaskis, where he will attend the G7 summit. Prime Minister is on his second leg of the three-nation tour. He successfully concluded his two-day visit to Cyprus, and now the Prime Minister has arrived in Canada after attending the G7 summit, precisely a 3-hour visit in Canada. He will be headed towards Croatia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be attending the G7 summit in Kananaskis. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Canada to participate in the G7 Leaders Summit hosted in Kananaskis, members of the Indian diaspora across the North American nation have extended a warm welcome and expressed hope for a renewed chapter in India-Canada relations. Let's listen in.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here in Canada, there is visible excitement in the Indian diaspora. Also, there is optimism about the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Kani, given that the relationship between India and Canada in the past couple of years wasn't at its best. The diaspora says they are pinning hopes on that meeting between Kani and Modi to see an upswing in the relationship. I have with me Harish Consul. He's a prominent member of the Indian diaspora here. He's CEO of Okro Group. Hi Harish, thank you for speaking to us. How do you see this meeting, and how do you see what kind of opportunity do you see in the relationship going on an upswing?
We're very excited about Prime Minister Modi's arrival. You know, it's been some recent sensitive news, but there's never been a better opportunity for us to remend, grow together. India is the fourth largest economy now, fastest growing. Alberta in particular is the fastest growing region in North America. There's so many opportunities together in tech and innovation and energy and security and ag tech. So we're very excited. The entire community, bahut khush hai.
Canada is looking for a partner, especially I can speak for Alberta, because the Premier of Alberta has opened up a Alberta-India trade corridor, which is going to talk about business. Right now we do $188 billion of business with the United States and just around about $500 million with India. So we want to triple our business with India.
This invitation has opened a big room for both the countries to work together, prosper together, and definitely it will improve the bilateral ties. Yeah. So I agree that it is going to make a big difference.
We both are one of the largest democracies in the world. India is going to be a $10 trillion economy. Canada is already an advanced economy. There is a lot of scope for our cooperation in the green energy, in the IT sector, in the quantum mechanics, in the space exploration. Opportunities are innumerable.
So I'm very much hopeful that this time ties between India and Canada is going to be more stronger. Our bilateral relations is going to be more stronger, and we're going to be having a lot of business within these two countries. Because if you see in last 10 years, a lot of Indian people, they're flying to Canada, they're migrating here, and it is very important to have the better relationship between these two countries.
So this is the sentiment in Canada on the eve of that crucial meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Kani. The expectation is that this crucial meeting could well prove to be the beginning of a reset in Indo-Canadian ties. With cameraman N.A. Sivakumar, this is Amrit Pal Singh for DD India in Alberta, Canada.
You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, a plane carrying 2 people crash lands at New Century Airport in Kansas. Investigation on. Salvador Plasencia, doctor of Matthew Perry, agrees to plead guilty to 4 counts of illegal distribution of the drug ketamine. Residents directed to evacuate as landslide triggered by recent intense rainfall struck the town of Borca di Cadore in northern Italy.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you. with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. अरे it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
गर फिरदौस बर्रुए ज़मी अस्त हमी अस्तो हमी अस्तो हमी अस्त Jammu and Kashmir, nature's finest works. A land of verdant valleys, pristine lakes, striking autumns, unforgettable majestic beauty. A place of unwavering devotion, wholehearted smiles, and warm hospitality. World famous for its exquisite artistry. Leader in diverse agricultural products. Heartland of winter sports. Jammu and Kashmir is vibrant, diverse, ambitious, future-focused, full of life. Welcome to heaven on earth.
Sikkim is not a destination, it's a journey.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. News that the Trump administration is considering extending its U.S. travel restrictions to include 36 more countries, with many of them in Africa, is drawing widespread reactions from the continent. A draft State Department memo outlines potential bans for nations not meeting standards on passport security, deportation cooperation, and counterterrorism. The move has sparked criticism across Africa, with some calling it racially motivated. The proposal follows a recent ban on citizens from 12 countries and echoes Trump's earlier travel ban on Muslim-majority nations.
Inclined to think that as the US government has done, the Trump administration has done with other governments, it perhaps may be a leverage to want the Zambian government to engage the American government into resolving whatever challenges the American government may have.
The person that he is, he's one person that doesn't rate African countries that much, Uganda being one of them. You know, he has made comments like Africa being a shithole country. Remember the rumors that came around that I will remove all the dictators in Africa. So he doesn't really hold Africa in that high regard.
A federal judge in Boston on Monday declared the Trump administration's termination of over $1 billion in National Institutes of Health diversity-related research grants void and illegal. U.S. District Judge William Young said that the government discriminated against racial minorities and LGBTQ communities, calling the racial bias palpable, the worst he had seen in the 4 decades. The cuts, part of Trump's broader agenda to dismantle DEI and transgender health initiatives, had halted critical research and cost thousands of jobs. Young, a Reagan appointee, reinstated several grants and warned of broader action ahead. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey said that the decision vindicated affected institutions, but noted that the damage to U.S. research leadership had already helped rival nations gain ground. U.S. Senate Republicans on Monday unveiled revisions to President Trump's sweeping tax and spending bill, reigniting tensions within their own party. The Senate plan slashes state and local tax deductions from $40,000 to $10,000, sparking outrage from House Republicans representing high-tax states. The revised bill also caps deductions for tipped income and overtime pay, diverging from Trump's 2024 campaign promises. At its core, the legislation seeks to cement Trump's 2017 tax cuts, raise the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, and bolster military and border funding. The Senate will now debate the modified text of Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which that chamber would need to pass and send back to the House for another vote before Trump could sign it into a law. The U.S. Senate Tax Committee proposed a phase-out of solar and wind energy tax credits by 2028, while extending incentives for hydropower, nuclear and geothermal units until 2036. The draft bill, championed by Republican Senator Mike Crapo, slashes clean energy subsidies, deeming them unnecessary in favor of more consistent energy sources. Solar shares plummeted following the announcement, and lawmakers warned the bill could jeopardize energy reliability. While the Senate bill gives clean energy projects more time than in the House version, it still imposes restrictions on foreign ownership and materials from adversary nations like China. The Senate's version of the bill preserves project developers' ability to sell or transfer their tax credits to third parties to reduce financing costs. The House bill had phased out that provision. NATO forces showed off tanks, armoured vehicles and aircraft in Hungary on Monday in drills for countering challenges from Russia. More than 3,000 US, Hungarian and Spanish troops took part in live fire training near Budapest in Szabadgárd 25. US Army V Corps troops quickly moved from their bases in Germany to a training site in Hungary, rehearsing the route they would follow if NATO's eastern flank were attacked. Commanding officer Lieutenant General Charles Costanza said the drills were meant to ensure we face no difficulties from Russia. He also stated that he did not see any change in the role of US forces in Europe, despite Trump's calls for European allies to increase their responsibility for the continent's defense. A plane carrying 2 people crash-landed on the roof of a hangar at New Century Airport in Gardner, Kansas on Monday. As per the local media, at least 2 people on board were injured. They were taken to an area hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Johnson County authorities said the cause of the crash is still under investigation. A California doctor charged in the overdose death of TV series Friends star Matthew Perry has agreed to plead guilty to 4 counts of illegal distribution of the drug ketamine. Salvador Plasencia, who operated an urgent care clinic in Malibu, faces up to 40 years in prison. Plasencia was one of the 5 people charged in the death of Matthew Perry. An autopsy found the actor died from acute effects of ketamine and other factors that caused him to lose consciousness and drown in his hot tub in October 2023. In the plea agreement, Plasencia admitted to injecting Perry with ketamine at the actor's home and in a Santa Monica parking lot in the weeks before his death in exchange for thousands of dollars. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Air India plane crash probe panel holds the first meeting in the national capital. Stay with us to know more. NCC cadres honoured after a triumph on Mount Everest. After the break, we get you the details. IMD predicts heavy rainfall in different parts of the country, marking a relief from the scorching hot and humid conditions.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives in Canada to participate in the Group of 7 Leaders Summit in Canada's Kananaskis. He also will be holding bilateral meetings with world leaders. Israel and Iran trade deadly strikes for the 4th day as the conflict continues to intensify. US President Trump to leave G7 summit early after issuing a warning for Tehran to evacuate immediately. Group of 7 Leaders Summit being held in Canada's Kananaskis with focus on various global challenges, including economic stability, climate change and technological advancements. Indian Met Department forecasts heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in many states across India. Gujarat is under red alert. Kutch region braces for extremely heavy rains today. After successfully concluding his 2-day visit to Cyprus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Calgary, Canada a short while ago, marking the second leg of his 3-nation visit. Prime Minister Modi is visiting Canada at the invitation of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney to attend the G7 summit in Kananaskis. This is Prime Minister Modi's first visit to Canada in a decade. He is on a 4-day, 3-nation visit to Cyprus, Canada and Croatia. Amritpal Singh joins us from Kananaskis, Alberta, Canada. Amrit, good morning. Now, we've told our viewers that the Prime Minister has arrived in Canada. You get us more as to what the day ahead for the Prime Minister looks like when we talk of the G7 summit.
Well, the Prime Minister Priti arrived about an hour and a half back here. He landed in Calgary. I am right now in this beautiful resort of Kananaskis where the G7 summit is going on. These beautiful rugged mountains that you see behind me are the Canadian Rockies in the Alberta province, as you said, where Mark Carney has decided to hold the G7 summit, which has been going on for the past 2 days. Tomorrow, the Prime Minister participates in the outreach session. Tonight, the Prime Minister stays. It's late evening here, almost night. The sun here sets at about 11:30 in the night. It's summertime in Alberta, in Canada. So, the Prime Minister tomorrow morning flies in a chopper from Calgary to Kananaskis, which is about 150 kilometers away. In the morning, it begins with a group photograph with the G7 leaders and the other invited leaders, which includes leaders of, of course, India, but Mexico, Brazil, Australia, South Africa, Ukraine. So there is a group photo, and then they go in for what is called the outreach session, where the Prime Minister makes his interventions and the other global leaders make their interventions. The Prime Minister has multiple bilateral meetings lined up. He will be meeting world leaders, including the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who Prime Minister Carney has invited as an invitee country here. He'll also be holding a bilateral meeting with Giorgia Meloni of Italy, and then the all-important meeting with Prime Minister Carney himself, who is the host. As you know, the diplomatic relations between the two countries, India and Canada, have been strained over the past couple of years. It, in fact, led to a lot of bickering after the 2023 killing of Hardeep Nijjar. And then we saw the fallout, diplomats, etc., being expelled by both countries or withdrawn. So now Mark Carney's invitation to Prime Minister Modi was seen as a bold step politically for him because he himself belongs to the Liberal Party, the same party that Justin Trudeau Trudeau belonged to. And there was considerable opposition. There was political pressure on him not to invite Prime Minister Modi to this summit, but he chose to go ahead with it and said that India is just too important to be left out. So tomorrow's meeting augurs well with the kind of indications coming from both sides. It could possibly be the beginning of the reset in the ties to get the ties back to a friendly relationship, given that the interests between the two sides coincide. So a lot packed up for tomorrow. It's a packed day tomorrow. The Prime Minister finishes all this and leaves tomorrow evening Canadian time for the next leg of his visit to Croatia. Preeti.
All right, Amrit, so you told us about the bilateral engagements, but for the benefit of our viewers, explain to us what is an outreach session in the G7 summit. This will be Prime Minister's 6th participation in the outreach session. What is the importance of these sessions in the G7 summit?
Okay, the G7 is basically a grouping of the 7 most advanced economies of the world, which includes the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan, Italy. Though it started as an economic grouping as a G6 way back in 1975, so it's been 50 years. This is like the 50th anniversary of the grouping. Then it became G7, then it became G8, then Russia was thrown out. Remember President Trump yesterday saying that, accusing Barack Obama and Justin Trudeau, saying had they not thrown out Putin, shown the door to Putin, today's crisis would not have erupted. But that's Donald Trump. So it's G7. Now, these countries started inviting countries from Africa and Asia, basically the developing world, because a lot of population of the world, majority of the population of the world resides in these countries. Countries like China, India, Brazil, South Africa. These countries, because they were central to the forward movement or finding solutions to the problems of the world, because large populations of the world lived in these countries. So that's how the outreach began. Now, basically, the advanced world sits with what is now known as the Global South, listens to their concerns and factors in that to the narrative in finding solutions to the pressing problems of our times that the world faces, because the advanced world also realized, or the developed world also realizes, that unless you take these countries along, you cannot find solutions. So that's the outreach session to which Prime Minister Modi, as you said, has been invited for the 6th time. India has been invited, I think, 11 or 12 times before. So the invitation is always, or the participation is always at the head of government level from India. That is to say that the Prime Minister of India comes and participates in that, which Prime Minister Modi shall be doing that. Generally they put out their concerns, as is expected, that the Prime Minister would bring issues related to AI, use of quantum, use of technology, killing the technological divide, and working towards the development of the people, delivering services and the fruits of development to the people who need it most. That is the marginalized sections of society, that is who are most vulnerable to things that are changing, be it climate change. Then the Prime Minister could bring up the issue of green energy security here. And the Prime Minister could possibly also touch on countering the menace of terrorism unitedly tomorrow in his intervention. Preeti.
All right, Amrit, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. And now we get to updates on the Ahmedabad plane crash. The first meeting of the high-level committee set up by the government to investigate the strategic plane crash was held in New Delhi on Monday. The committee was chaired by the Union Home Secretary Govind Mohan. The members of the high-level multidisciplinary committee, including Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, senior officials from Home Ministry, officials of Home Department and State Disaster Response Authority of Gujarat, Police Commissioner of Ahmedabad, Director General of Inspection and Safety in the Indian Air Force, and Director General of Bureau of Civil Aviation Security also attended the meeting. The panel will submit its report within 3 months, which is expected to focus on formulating standard operating procedures for preventing such occurrences in the future. A separate investigation is also being carried out by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, which is looking into the technical aspects of the crash. Air India's Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner aircraft operating a flight from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick crashed soon after the takeoff last week. Only one person survived out of the 242 people on board the plane. Former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani was given a tearful farewell on Monday. India's Home Minister Amit Shah, Gujarat Governor Acharya Devvrat and Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel paid their respects. The former Gujarat Chief Minister lost his life in the Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad on 12th of June. The state government has also declared a one-day state mourning in his memory. The Financial Action Task Force has condemned the Pahalgam terror attack, saying the attack could not have occurred without financial backing. The global watchdog in a statement said that Pahalgam attack and other recent attacks could not have happened without money and means to move funds between terrorist supporters. The FATF reaffirmed its support to over 200 jurisdictions within its global network to build and enhance their counter-financing of terrorism measures. It will soon release a comprehensive analysis of terrorist financing, compiling cases provided by the global network. FATF President Eliza de Anda Madrazo had recently emphasized that no single company, authority or country can combat the challenge of terrorism alone, and the world must be unified against the scourge of global terrorism. This is the first time that state-sponsored terrorism is being acknowledged by FATF as a funding source. The first assembly of the International Big Cat Alliance was held in New Delhi on Monday. India's Minister for Environment, Bhupendra Yadav, chaired the meeting, which saw participation from ministerial delegations of 9 countries, including Bhutan, Cambodia, Eswatini and Kazakhstan. Highlighting India's leadership in wildlife conservation, Yadav urged all big cat range countries to collaborate actively in IBCS initiatives.
Significant strides in preserving its rich biodiversity and iconic wildlife. India remains committed to advancing big cat conservation through the platform of International Big Cat Alliance by sharing our proven best practices with fellow range countries. India stands ready to collaborate with all IBCA members to adapt these models tailored to local contexts and to co-develop innovative solutions that secure the future of big cats and their landscapes worldwide. Thank you.
A team of 10 NCC cadets comprising of 5 boys and 5 girls who successfully scaled Mount Everest on 18th of May 2025 were recently felicitated by General Upendra Dwivedi, Chief of Army Staff. The Chief of Army Staff, General Dwivedi, interacted with the cadets, commending their remarkable achievement and applauding their determination and leadership. He described their feat as a shining example of discipline and national pride. The courageous cadets unfurled the tricolour atop the world's highest peak, demonstrating resilience and patriotism. With an average age of just 19 and the youngest climber at only 16, their success serves as an inspiration to the nation's youth, encouraging them to dream big and push beyond limits. Let's get to weather updates now. The Indian Met Department has forecast heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in many states across India. States in South Peninsular India are set to experience widespread moderate to heavy rainfall. Gujarat is under red alert. Kutch region braces for extremely heavy rains today. Orange alert has been issued in Rajasthan, West Bengal, Odisha, Maharashtra, East Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand and Bihar, Kerala and Konkan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. Rain will also lash parts of Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal, Kerala and Mahe, Lakshadweep, Karnataka, coastal Andhra Pradesh and Yanam, Rayalaseema and Telangana till 20th of June. Landslide struck the alpine town of Bocca di Cadore in northern Italy, forcing dozens of residents to evacuate. The landslide, triggered by recent intense rainfall, sent mud and rock cascading down the mountainside, damaging infrastructure and isolating pockets of the town. Officials are urging travelers to avoid the area until further notice as cleanup operations continue. Restoration efforts are also underway. 6 people are dead and 2 are unaccounted for in the wake of heavy rains and devastating flash flooding in West Virginia. A residential building in the city of Fairmont in Marion County was destroyed during floods on Sunday. A video showed water gushing out of the severely damaged structure as emergency crews responded to the scene. Officials said they are monitoring the situation as more rain is in forecast over the next few days. Earlier, Morrissey said about 3 to 4 inches of rain fell in less than an hour, causing flooding in the northern part of the state.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
The US Pentagon has awarded a $200 million contract to OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. According to a Pentagon statement on Monday, the tech giant will develop cutting-edge artificial intelligence prototypes to tackle critical national security threats in both battlefield operations and defense infrastructure. The contract work will be based in the Washington area, with completion expected by July 2026. This follows the White House's recent AI guidance promoting competition in the sector, though national security projects like this remain exempt. A new survey of 7,000 active users on Instagram, Facebook and Threads reveals a sharp rise in harmful content since Meta rolled back moderation policies and ended three-party fact-checking in the US. The survey, conducted by digital and human rights groups, found that 1 in 6 respondents reported experiencing gender-based or sexual violence on Meta platforms. An alarming 66% said that they had witnessed hateful or violent content, while 92% expressed concern over increasing exposure to such material. Even more striking, 77% of users admitted to feeling less safe expressing themselves freely. The move, widely seen as aligning with President Trump's administration, marked a sharp reversal from Meta's previous standards. Despite Meta's claims that violations remained low, advocacy groups accused CEO Mark Zuckerberg of abandoning vulnerable users and demanded an independent audit and reinstatement of stricter content moderation. Despite the outcry, Meta has declined to comment on the findings. And now we talk of sports. You're watching DD India News. Our Taylor Fritz has surpassed Novak Djokovic to claim the 4th spot in the latest ATP rankings on Monday. The jump in the rank comes after his latest triumph at the Stuttgart Open against Alexander Zverev. The 27-year-old American had reached the same position last November, but slipped in the rankings during the clay court season. He now trails only the unchangeable top trio of Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz and Alexander Zverev. Meanwhile, Tatjana Maria jumped 43 places to reach the 43rd spot in the latest WTA rankings. This comes a day after completing her fairy tale run at the Queen's Club Championships. The 37-year-old became the oldest winner of a WTA 500 event after she defeated America's Amanda Anisimova in the final. India powered itself to a commendable 3rd place finish at the recently concluded World Cup in Munich, which is one of the most prestigious and challenging tournaments on the ISSF's annual calendar. The tournament saw India register its 3rd top 3 finish this year in 4 World Cups with 2 gold and 2 bronze medals. Rising women's pistol star Suruchi Singh won an unprecedented 3rd consecutive individual gold in the women's 10 meters air pistol. The other highlight was Arya Bose and Olympian Arjun Babuta's win over the Chinese world record holders Sheng Lihao and Wang Zifei. Meanwhile, 2-time Olympian Elavenel Valarivan and world record holder Siftkor Samra also reinforced their status as world-class shooters with their bronze-winning performances in Munich. The history of yoga dates back thousands of years, originating in ancient India as a spiritual practice that aimed to unite mind and body. Let's take you back and see how it evolved over the centuries. Tripti Tripathi gets us more in this report.
Yoga.
a timeless gift from India to the world. Rooted in the Sanskrit word yuj, meaning to unite, yoga is more than just physical exercise. It's a science of inner transformation. Its origins trace back over 5,000 years to the Indus Saraswati civilization. In yogic lore, Lord Shiva is hailed as the first yogi, Adi Yogi, who shared his profound knowledge with the Saptarishis on the banks of Lake Kanti Sarovar. From ancient Vedic texts to the wisdom of Mahavir and Buddha, from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras to the Bhagavad Gita, the practice evolved across ages.
Today we are living in the AI age, artificial intelligence age. We are very proud of it. This AI is going to replace so many people. They will be jobless. But our rishis gave a vision which will make nobody jobless. The yoga is turning from AI to RI, or building the bridge between the AI and RI, artificial intelligence to Rishi's intelligence.
The post-classical period saw the rise of Hatha Yoga, while the modern era brought global recognition, thanks to masters like Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, and others. Even now, after thousands of years, we see people returning to their roots. Young members of society continue to seek Asian practices.
Yoga, which is very important for our life and which give us mental peacefulness, and it give a power to push ourselves, to remove our stress and to remove our disease.
Millions of people across the globe have benefited by the practice of yoga, which has been preserved and promoted by the great eminent yoga masters from ancient time to this date. The practice of yoga is growing more vibrant with each passing day. Yoga today is a journey of self-realization, a path towards physical health, mental peace, and spiritual harmony.
Yoga is not just about bending bodies, it is about aligning lives. From Himalayas to every household, its journey continues to inspire all. Tripti Tripathi for DD India from Delhi.
Nepal is preparing to celebrate the 11th International Day of Yoga under the Healthy Nepal campaign. Ahead of the event, the Indian Embassy in Kathmandu organized a yoga awareness session at International Center for Integrated Mountain Development with participation from scientists, researchers and yoga enthusiasts from Hindu Kush Himalayan member countries. The Indian Customs Office in Birganj also held a session in Chitwan's Narayangarh. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli met with yoga instructors and ministry representatives at Baluwatar, where he was briefed on the formation of a 3-tier Yoga Day celebration main committee. PM Oli emphasized on promoting yoga as a lifestyle aligned with the Nirogi Nepal Abhiyan. Yoga has become increasingly popular in Spain, with many people embracing it for its physical, mental and spiritual benefits. Spain ranks among the top European countries for yoga popularity thanks to its beautiful landscapes, wellness culture and growing number of retreats and studios. Our correspondent Anton Sandhu gets us this report.
The journey of yoga in Spain began to rise significantly in the late 20th century, fueled by Indian gurus traveling through Europe and the translation of yogic texts into Spanish. Over the last 2 decades, yoga schools rooted in classical Indian traditions like Hatha and Ashtanga have flourished alongside contemporary Western adaptations such as aerial yoga and vinyasa flow.
I opened the studio of yoga 4 years ago to create a bit of presence for our Madrid yogis here. The studio is all about finding your inner peace, and that's the main thing I myself find through the practice.
In the last 10 years, I've seen how popular yoga is in Spain. Today, Spain has the highest population of people performing yoga daily. And I find it incredible the response that we get from the people in yoga in Spain.
Today, Spain boasts more than 1,500 yoga studios and thousands of certified instructors. Indian diplomatic missions and cultural centers, especially the Embassy of India in Madrid, have played a crucial role in fostering awareness through events, workshops, and the International Day of Yoga, which draws thousands in cities across the country.
I'm very proud to see how yoga has been received in Spain, having been celebrated in our royal palace in a huge way for the last 10 years. I'm Spanish. I was born here. I've been brought up here, but my mother is Indian, and yoga is my way of keeping connected with my roots, with my culture.
I've never done yoga in India, but after coming here, I was so happy to discover that yoga is very common here as well, and I really like the way they embraced and it spread very widely over here, and it motivated me to start doing yoga here. And as a student living abroad, I got a sense of comfort.
Indian origin teachers and Spanish practitioners trained in India have helped preserve authenticity. Many Spaniards are now exploring pranayam, Ayurveda, and even Sanskrit. As Spain continues to embrace yoga with open arms, India's ancient wisdom finds itself not only practiced but deeply respected. This is Atman Sandhu in Spain for DD India.
That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.